Hey, welcome back. So we've seen how to define a function that accepts inputs and spits something out, returns an output using the return keyword. Now what I want to do is just showcase two common mistakes that are made when using the return keyword. So first up, I have an example function called sumOddNumbers. And the expected behavior that I want when I pass in a list or a range, any sort of iterable collection, and we'll just assume it's full of numbers. What I want to happen is that I want it to loop through, and for every odd number in there, add it together. So if I called sumOddNumbers with this list, I would want 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7. So that should give us, 16? And so that's what we expect. We expect 16 to come back. And the simple walkthrough of the behavior is we start with the total variable, set it equal to 0. We loop through each number in numbers, and we check, is that number odd? If it is, we add it to total. And then at the end, we return total. But if we actually run this, let's see what happens. We get 1. So what's happening? 1 is supposed to be, added to total, and we're returning total, but what about all the rest? Where's 3 and 5 and 7 being added into total? And this is a really, really simple mistake to make, especially in Python, because it's just a matter of indentation. What happens is that because this return is inside of this loop, the first time through the loop, so we run through it in this example, for num and numbers, we start off with num is equal to 1. We check, is it even or odd? And if it is odd, we'll add it to total. So this line runs, but then this line also runs because it's in the loop. And it just says, all right, whatever total is right now, return it. And that ends the execution of the loop and of the function entirely. Remember that return will quit the function out and we're done. So what we want to do instead is outdent it here. And what happens now is the loop continues to run and it finishes running, and then only after the loop is done, we return total. So let's try it now. And now we get 16. Okay, so let me leave both examples here. Down here, I'll put the old version, just like that, and comment it out. Cool. Okay, so that's the first problem that you might encounter, is returning too soon. And that can happen in, a conditional or in a loop. It can happen all over the place. So just be aware of your indentation. So the second type of commonly made mistake when using the return keyword is not so much a mistake. The last one actually broke the functionality of our code. It didn't do what we wanted. This one is more just, it's just about making things cleaner and removing unnecessary code. So what this function does, it's called isOddNumber, and we should be able to pass in, let's do 4, and then we'll do 9. And it should return false for this one because 4 is not odd, it's even. And when we pass in 9, it should return true. It's just a simple conditional check. If the number is divisible by, or it's not divisible by 2, return true, otherwise return false. Okay, so if we run it now, we get false and true, and the behavior is how it's supposed to work. But what I want to show you is that this else right here is actually unnecessary. So what happens is we go through with num, let's say num is 9. If num mod 2, so 9 mod 2 is not equal to 0, and we return true. But this time, if we pass in 2, if this part is false, we can just return false right here, just like this. There's only 2 options. So if we return true, the rest of the code doesn't even execute. We don't need the else because this just ends the function. And the only way to get returned false is if this is already false. So when you are returning Boolean values like this, or you're returning true or false, there's no need for an additional else. And it's not only limited to this case of returning true or false, but if you're returning something at the end in the else case, you just don't need the else. So I call that one the unnecessary else. Patent pending. Okay, so those are just 2 common mistakes you can make when using the return keyword.